Next up, a native of New York City, he serves as host of the Gerry V Show on News Talk WRNO 99.5 each and every weekday morning. He spent over 2 decades on the New Orleans and Charlotte Hornets radio broadcast team. In Charlotte, he was named Talk Show Host of the Year 3 times. He played basketball at Gardner-Webb, spent time as a coach at Davidson and at James Madison. And he can talk to you about the Pelicans ad nauseum, but also about the Saints and the state of affairs in the world. If you'd like to, please give a warm welcome to Gerry V, Gerry Valancourt of WRNO. Gerry?
Thank you for having me. I knew I was in a classy joint when I went up to get food and I saw 2 forks. You got a little one and a big one. When I was growing up, when we would go out to eat, which wasn't often, I grew up in Brooklyn and Queens, we went out to a restaurant one time, Johnny Salerno's, got arrested 15 years later, laundering money for the mob. I didn't know that. But anyway, he would have the family in all the time, and I said to my father, I said, "Pop, look, 2 forks." He goes, "Yeah, that's in case you drop one." But thanks for having me. I'm very blessed and very fortunate, and I can discuss LSU, Pelicans, whatever you want, life. I'm just blessed that I get paid to have an opinion, which is quite scary. I was a high school coach. I was a college coach for 16 years, Davidson, Appalachian State, James Madison. And coaches are very, very special people. Very special people. I remember telling my players, and this advice was given to me by Dean Smith. My first job was at a high school in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. By the way, this is a historical moment today for me, because Ken Drahan told me, "Can you speak in less than 8 minutes?" I haven't done that in my whole freaking life. My confessions take 3 hours. By the way, my priest is deaf. Good advice. Follow that. My priest always goes to me, "What did you say?" "What?" I go, and then I shot him. "Okay, 10 Hail Marys." I almost became a priest, by the way. I go on the speaker's tour a lot, so I have just notes and notes of all kinds of stories that are all true. But I'll tell you this one quickly. I almost became a priest because Sister Carol at Holy Child Jesus Grammar School in Queens, New York, used to call me her little cupcake. And she said, "Gerard," my real name is Gerard. I was named after the patron saints of expectant mothers by my mother. My mother had more statues in the house than the St. Patrick Cathedral. Every time she'd go see me play, she'd light a candle. And that's tough for a mom in New York because I had to take the subway to go see me play. So you think you guys are tough. Growing up where I grew up, we played 3 games a night. We didn't have team buses. Game 1, getting to the game on the subway. Game 2, playing the game. Game 3, trying to get home from the Bronx at 11 o'clock at night, or Brooklyn, or Queens. You notice I can ramble, but I'm a professional, stay with me. But anyway, I was always told, when I knew growing up I wanted to be a coach. I knew it in the 5th grade. I had great mentors. My youth league coaches. I was a baseball aficionado. It was my #1 love. I thought I was going to go play college baseball. And then I got hooked on basketball because in the schoolyards of Queens and Brooklyn, everybody played hoops. Which reminds me of a poem. If you wear shoes that make you slip and slide, you need a pair with the star on the side. So when you go home, tell mom to get her purse and buy you a pair of Converse. Okay. I know what you're thinking. This nut job up here has got a lot to say. Bear with me, God made me. I didn't make myself. God put me on this planet to entertain you because laughter is the lotion for the sunburns of your life. And if you don't know that, you'll never understand. You're looking at a guy that in 1995 was told he might have 2 years to live on a misdiagnosis. So I had the crap scared out of me, and from that moment on I said, I'm living life. So anyway, I knew back in the day I wanted to coach because of mentors. And there were gentlemen in my neighborhood that made a tremendous impact on my life. How they taught, how they communicated, how they just resonated, how they helped the kids. I said, I'm going to coach. Jack Bergen was my first coach. I love the man. And he passed away. I remember my sophomore year in high school, I got cut from the varsity. And he told me, nothing wrong with playing on the JV level. My junior year, I got cut from the varsity. I said, what, are you kidding me? He told me, you need to become a gym rat. He says, I'm taking you to basketball camp. And he did. And I developed this passion. And he drove it into me, but not in the overbearing, loud way. We were at this basketball camp called Friendship Farm. It was run by Jack Donahue, did Coach Lou Alcindor before he became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He played at Power Memorial High School. And they took me into this little cabin, because it was in the mountains of New York State. And my coach, Jack Bergen, I thought he would become my coach, because he was the varsity coach at McClancy High School in the Catholic League in New York City. And he said, how good do you want to be? Do you want to play at this game, or do you want to waste your time? I said, I want to play. He said, you need to become a gym rat. And then he got me this t-shirt. He said, I want you to wear this t-shirt every day. When it starts to smell and sweat, wear it. And it had a rat on it holding a basketball. And what he meant was, you got to invest the time. I would practice and practice and practice and practice. I would be in the gym at 2 o'clock in the morning, running drills, jumpers, ball handling, whatever. And I got addicted. And I got dangerously addicted to the game, to the point that I just embraced it totally. My senior year, I made the team and got 12 offers to play Division I basketball because of Jack Bergen. When Jack Bergen died, I cried like a baby. My inspiration. The lesson learned there was, as coaches, you walk on sacred ground. You're special people. You're bestowed with this extraordinary sense of adventure, of caring, of loving, of passion. It separates you. You're ball players as well. I used to tell my players, and I learned this from just watching. My father used to say, spend more time with the coaches that have gray hair. They have the wisdom. The young guy hasn't endured the pain yet. He hasn't gotten his brains kicked in yet. He doesn't know what it's like to endure. He said, they haven't earned their bones. Go to the guys that have earned their bones. The guys that have lost, the guys that had no budget, the guys that turned it around, the guys that made it happen, the guys that just stuck with it. They endured the journey. God does this to coaches. I used to tell my players, when they would say, God, you're working us so hard. This isn't fun. I said, you know when the game becomes fun? When you're in better shape than the other guy. And you're running up and down the court, and you got all this great lung capacity, and the other knucklehead's legs are getting tired and heavy. That's when the game becomes fun. Coaching is salesmanship. Coaching is getting an individual to move from point A to point B when he doesn't want to. Then it's getting that player to go from point B to point C when he's tired. And then when he gets to point D, he experiences those magical moments. Coaching with players is putting together a string of magical moments. It's like when I used to go out and evaluate talent. I would watch players in a 10-play sequence. I'd watch them, 10 plays, offense, defense. How many positive moments did that player string together? To tell our players, string them together, because you look for that consistency. We tell our players, you never know when somebody's watching. You never know when you're being evaluated. It's true. I got jobs during my career I had no business being in. When Fox 8 gave me a job as a news anchor, I'd never been a news anchor. Are you kidding me? I'm sitting in that room going, are you guys serious? They gave me a shot. It was a tremendous experience. You moved on to other things. You never know when people are watching, I tell the players. There was a man snowed in a hotel at the Hyatt Hotel in South Park, Charlotte, North Carolina. I was a guest on a sports talk show on television, going back early 90s. And he was watching me as a guest, and he called me. Have you ever done talk radio? No. I want you to audition for a network I'm putting together. I auditioned. I got the job, and I was also doing the NBA at the same time. I was also doing the post-game and pre-game for the Panthers. I do an NBA game, I do my talk show, do an NBA game on a weekend. The Panthers would fly me out, then fly me home to meet the Hornets. I was insane. I was hooked because of mentors. I never knew when I was being evaluated. Same with you players. Look at the coaches that are here today. And those coaches will think about day one, when the season started, when they first looked at their team, to their first set of practices, as they chart the progress of that team to their first game. And if you go undefeated, I don't care what level it is, you're blessed. And the endurance, and think of everything a coach and a player has to endure from day one till the very end. It's a remarkable journey. Now go look at the coaches that have done it 5, 10, 15, and 20 years. Even more remarkable. I kind of like having a raspy voice. I'm getting over a throat thing. Kind of makes me sound smoky sexy, as I say on the air. It's okay, you can laugh, relax. Remember, laughter is the lotion for the sunburns of your life. You don't have 3 hearty laughs a day, you're going to die. But that's what it's all about with that coaching adventure. They're like Lewis and Clark. I miss coaching every day. Everything that I do, I still keep my coaching principles. I was looking at my old practice notes that I still have, and my clinic notes. Is I still do clinics and speak to businesses and speak at All-America camps up until 2 years ago. The great 5-star camp used to be the greatest basketball camp in the country. Best 150 players in the country. I would be on that speaking staff. I was flattered. Rick Pitino, John Calipari, who I stopped recruiting, by the way, the coach of Kentucky. I told him he was too slow. I remember the day his father snuck me in the back door of a gym during the playoff game. My flight was late and the game was sold out. U.B. Brown, Jack Ramsey, Hall of Fame, they called me the closer. I would do the closing lecture. I got the opportunity because a guy that was the closer couldn't show up. He was sick. And the camp director, Howie Garfinkel, who, by the way, 175, over 225 players have been through that camp and made it in the NBA. So the greatest talent in the world. My friend Freddie Lynch and Pop Herring coached Michael Jordan. Freddie Lynch is the guy that cut Michael Jordan from the varsity. We used to call him every summer and go, I'd change my voice on the phone and go, Freddie Lynch, this is ESPN. Aren't you the guy that cut Michael Jordan? And we would remind him for years. A legitimate cut, by the way. Because we had Jordan at our high school basketball camp, and he wasn't good enough to be on varsity. Because he had 3 6'9" players on that team, and he needed the space for the bigs. So whatever you hear about that story, there wasn't a spot for Jordan. But Jordan was a gym rat. I was at that 5-star camp when Michael Jordan destroyed the camp and nobody knew who he was. He wasn't on the list as the top 100 players in the country. Wasn't on the list. Street and Smith, it was the #1 basketball publication at the time. The first time in the history of the publication, they redid the magazine to include Michael Jordan. How did they miss on Michael Jordan? How did they miss on some of your players? I don't know what your aspirations are as a high school coach. I don't know if you have aspirations to go to the next level. I don't know what your career ambitions are. You might be as happy as you'll ever be at the high school level because we all have our own lane, and there is nothing wrong with that because high school coaches are some of the most special coaches in the world. And when I come here today and I hear people in his journey and everybody's got a journey, they've all endured something. Oh, it's what a feeling. I was sitting over there going, man, oh man, I remember I'm 22 years old, my first head job, nervous walking on my first practice floor. What a feeling that is. I used to tell our players, you walk onto the floor of a gym or onto a field the way you walk into a church. Because it's sacred ground. And I'm not being mushy, am I, Coach? I'm not being mushy. That's sacred ground. And you defend that sacred ground. You know the line people say, not in our house they don't. No, we didn't say that. We would just say sacred ground. So when you step over that line or you step over that field, when you lift that foot up and you set your foot down on that wood or on that turf, you're on sacred ground. And it's special, and the players embrace that. Because you have to be a salesman, and you all are. You're good salesmen. You're selling your players on how to endure, how to fail, how to get up, how to be successful, how to handle criticism and instruction and coaching, how to understand I'm not criticizing you as a person, I'm critiquing your game, how to handle peer pressure, how to build peer pressure, how to build a locker room, how to properly influence people, how to understand their families. what they're enduring. All players have a story and a background. This is the coaches. They do all of those things. They're counselors, they're leaders, they're mentors, they're father figures to some, mother figures, they're everything. We are blessed in this area, in the state of Louisiana. And our show goes into Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and in that region, but I'll zero in on our region. That you're so blessed with so many good people that have such a tremendous passion for what they do, and a high school scene that is absolutely remarkable, remarkable, because of all that pride. And the fact that, and I remember here we evacuated for Katrina, and during Katrina, during those emergency radio shows, and sleeping in a studio for 3 weeks, didn't mind, had a great time, loved doing the service. And those programs that suffered, and how they rallied and brought it back, are you kidding me? Sports is the last sacred bastion where we're immune to politics, hopefully. We're immune to all the riffraff going on in the world. Hopefully some of the violence in the world doesn't trickle in and impact the roster, but it's the place where communication is at its purest. It's at its purest. There's no room for jive talk. It's pure. And that's why coaches have a special dialogue. And that's why God looks down at coaches and goes, yep, yes indeed. See, when coaches pass away and go to heaven, you know what God's going to say to them? Here are your keys to the condo. Come and go as you please. He'll give them free access. It's special. I love being around coaches. I love it. I love the 21 years I spent in the NBA, the 16 at the college game and the high school game before that. My whole life has been about coaching and sports. My whole life. It motivates me, it's organized me, it's compelled me, it's helped me, it's done everything. It's allowed me to network, it's allowed me to meet people, it's allowed me to advance in my career, it's allowed me to do a lot of things. It really has. It truly has. The day ESPN called me over 15 years ago, more than that, the day before, when they said, you're going to do college ball for us, they auditioned me for 5 games. And their suit guys flew down. The next day, I got the offer to do the New Orleans Hornets, or the Charlotte Hornets at the time. I had to make a decision. ESPN said to me, okay, let's see if you can do both. So they brought a plastic overlay, and they laid it down on my NBA schedule. They said, we got you down for a 40-game college schedule. You got to do like preseason and 81 NBA games. That's a lot of games. You'll never be home. I hope you don't have a girlfriend. And they laid down the plastic overlay, and my 40 college games got reduced to 8. I had to make a choice. I said, I've done high school and college. I'm going to try the NBA. Lucky. Why? The first guy that watched you and evaluated you, and a friend helped me, Les Robinson, used to be the head coach at North Carolina State, said, you need to do some media work. He got me the audition, a mentor, a friend, a network. Are you teaching your kids how to market themselves? Are you teaching your kids how to present themselves? Are you teaching your kids how to conduct themselves in an interview? Are you teaching your kids to look people in the eye and shake hands? Are you teaching your players, say hello first before you say goodbye? Are you teaching them to be that first person to greet someone when they come near them? People remember that. It becomes a habit. You know, we talk about habits for our players. String a lot of positive plays together. String a lot of good habits. String a lot of good mannerisms. It lifts them. It lifts them. It's remarkable. I could tell you stories for hours, but I won't keep you here all afternoon. I will. I ordered food. Garçon, bring the wine. No. But don't ever forget that as a coach. Keep playing games with yourself. Keep finding ways to motivate you and your players. Do you keep journals? Keep journals of motivational lines. I know you keep journals on new drills and philosophies. Spend time with the older coaches. Spend time to the guys that have been on the front lines and that have endured, and pick their brain clean. I've had sit-downs with Dean Smith, Jimmy Valvano, Greg Popovich, Phil Jackson. These guys will sit down with you. You know, these guys on the journey that they've been on, the stories are fascinating. Get stories from people. That's why you see good NFL teams and good NBA teams have veterans on those teams that are mentors, because you want that young player to have somebody he can go to lunch or dinner with and ask him the question, what was it like to get that title? What did you have to do? Because they don't know. So you teach your young players to reach out. And as a coach, you reach out. Feed your knowledge bank. You know, you're going to feed your bank deposit? You got to feed your coaching deposit. Don't think for a minute you can't borrow ideas. We all drink from wells we never dug. We're drinking other people's water. I stole a play off a junior high school coach one day. And I went to a practice to watch a friend of mine's son play, and I saw this play. And I asked this coach coaching an 8th grade team, show me that again. In his office, we incorporated it to Division I level. Never be so prideful that you can't help. Everybody helps. Everybody's got knowledge. Some people will try to tell you that they don't. But you get my point. Coaches, ladies and gentlemen, and players, playoffs are coming up. What a great moment. And these guys know, because I know it, right? You spend a little more time in front of that mirror before the playoff game. You're talking to yourself. You say that little extra prayer. You got that little special feeling. It's called a playoff buzz. Oh, it feels good, too. It feels good. And when you come walking out on that field with your players, everybody walks a little bit different because that's human nature. It's that good feeling because you've endured it all. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you. And you're going to create memories that you're never, ever going to forget. And believe me, you're not going to forget them. St. John's University semifinals, New York City Catholic High School championships. We're one game for playing for the whole thing. I'm being defended by Richie Lyons, first team New York City guard. I'm killing this kid. I got 25. I can't miss. I'm destroying this young man. Richie goes, Gerry, man, you on fire. And I missed the shot that could have won it. Ball went in, wall came out. The game giveth, the game taketh away. A memory. The good and the bad. Build from it. Man, this is special. I wish you guys the best of luck in the playoffs. The Pelicans, don't ask me. The Saints, they don't get in the playoffs and have a winning season. That's 4 losing seasons. The last 5, it is what it is. I hope Tulane gets a program. I hope Dunleavy can get it going. Another New York City guy. All the local colleges, LSU, basketball, I hope it happens. Next time that we meet, I'll tell you my first meeting with Pistol Pete. God bless you. Thank you. I hope I parlayed something onto you. I'll leave you with this one final piece of wisdom that'll motivate these coaches, and I want you to use it with your teams and see the expressions on their faces. I'm going to give you a golden line. Look at your teams before this big, big game. And tell your team before they leave the locker room. Gentlemen, the dirtier the ankles on a waitress, the better the chili. Thanks for having me. They don't even know what I said. Thank you so much. Any questions? We good? Anyone need investment tips? Buy Cuban oil. Yes, sir.
Well, I know you love baseball, so your thoughts about the Cubs finally winning?
Well, I loved it. It was a grace from God. They've endured enough. How do you go, what was it, over a century? Think about it. I mean, just think about that. One Cub fan was left in the city of Chicago, then finally passed away, God bless her, who got to see the Cubs win. Think about it, 100 years. I got friends that haven't been able to get a date in 100 years, and they use Match.com. Parlay that to the Cubs. What an amazing story for sports. Sports needs stories like that. Need more stories like that. Anyone else? Don't want to hear about the time in prison? I'm glad you don't ask. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.